en Antioquia, ni en Colombia, ni en Medellín. Acá mando soy yo.
¡El fuerte del mundo!
A cada santo le llega su
Medellín, Colombia is my ancestral home, my roots. I don't want to be like my low-life dad, Pablo. You can call me Pablito.
I need 25,000 dinero, $25,000. So you want me to lend you money so that I can manage?
¿Te gusta? Mucho rumba will make mucho dinero.
I don't really know what business he's gonna pursue. He's actually having women pay him for sex right now.
Pure, it's amazing.
Hay respuestas cuando se
There's
quería.
mucho acá. Stupidity, obesity, and the stupid dirt squirrel.
I will make Colombia great again. Colombia. We love those Colombians and we love those Jews.
Le llega su día, a cada guerrero su victoria y a cada martirio su final. Eso decía mi mamita cuando me da.
Battle Line podcast, and you're probably wondering what exactly was that I just heard top of show, because we usually start top of show with a teaser clip. So I'm just going to say, if you are not tuned into this episode to just have some fun and talk with the legendary Ian Halperin and hear some great Hollywood stories and that type of thing, then yeah, you've come to the wrong place. This is not a serious episode, and it's just myself hosting. Chris is out at a speaking engagement, but that was the trailer for Ian Halperin's Don't F with Pablo, which is available now at TGI123.com. I have been a fan of Ian Halperin's work for many years, so it was awesome to have him on and just do something completely different as we sometimes do. And yeah, that's what this episode is. Ian Halperin on with us, and we talk about his legendary appearances on Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony, and much more. He keeps his sunglasses on for the entirety of the interview. I don't know if he's going to sleep in those sunglasses. I don't know what the deal is, but Ian Halperin is a character, and it was an honor to have him on. Hey, before we get into this interview, first I want to actually say thank you to you guys watching on YouTube, and if you're listening, check out our YouTube, because we have just surpassed 5,000 subscribers. We are trying to grow that number up, and the more that we grow that, the more Chris and I could bring you some great content. Also, before we get to the interview, I got to tell you about Ned. Ned has been with this show since just about its inception, and it is some of the greatest supplements on the market. I have to tell you, their Relief Balm, right now in New York, we had a nice, beautiful weekend, and I feel great. And then all of a sudden, the weather gets colder, it's raining, and some of you guys have to have this same thing. My body just reacts to the weather. My neck tightens up, and my joints are all stiff. I use not only the CBD, because CBD is great for that, and great for a good night's sleep, but in conjunction, I use the Relief Balm, which is the best relief balm on the market. It has that cooling sensation mixed with that CBD that you get into your skin, get into your pores, and it is really going to help with that tension. So I use it in my neck, my upper back, at times like these, and I've had great results with it. It gives me a great night's sleep, and it's one of those things where during the summer I'm using less of that relief balm, but in those cold months it is a lifesaver. And I really hope that you guys check it out and not only support us, but support a great company that's based out of Colorado. They're not like many of these CBD companies putting out crap from China. It is all made here in the United States. So go to helloned.com/battleline or add the code battleline at checkout, and you're going to get the best deal through us when you go there. That's HELLONED.com/battleline. If you're a first-time customer, use that promo code. You'll get a great deal. They take care of our listeners. helloned.com/battleline. Let's hit it. Let's get right to this interview with His Highness Hollywood, Ian Halperin.
From Kansas City to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal. engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
The Switch is on, Battle Line Podcast, and truly, this is someone I've wanted to interview for a long time now, and actually just had the opportunity to meet in person, actually right after I did the Pablo Schreiber interview. Ian and I met up. So Ian Halperin, also known as His Highness Hollywood. You've seen him on Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony, now known as Pablito Escobar. And it's great to have you on, man. And for those who don't know, New York Times bestselling author, investigative journalist, media personality, filmmaker, and what am I leaving out?
No, a big Expo fan. You're a Mets fan.
Yep. No, you are Canadian, which I should point out to the audience.
That's right. But the 69 Mets were a miracle team. And, I believe they had Nolan Ryan pitching for them. Ryan started with the Mets, I believe, and then he went to the California Angels. They had quite a team. But I'm a big Mets fan. How do they look this year, Ian? Are they going to do well?
I don't think so, man. It is not looking good. This team is always riddled with injuries and who knows what else.
You know, it's like that first baseman went there, Mo Vaughn from the Red Sox.
Yes.
Like
Slow
he
Vaughn.
played a cup of coffee, and then he collects insurance the rest of his life. But another guy was Bobby Bonilla.
Yes.
You know, he gets $1 million every year.
Yeah.
For another year, I believe, for like 20 years, he got $1 million a year, just because of the insurance claim. And so the Mets, they have a jinx. I mean, their last hurrah was in '86 when Gary Carter was there, Strawberry, Doc Gooden. Wow, they had a great team.
And you got to remember, because he's a character much like yourself, Lenny Dykstra.
Yeah, Dykstra. I mean, what a character. Who would have thought what the road he would have gone down? And but he was a hell of a player for the Mets.
Do you follow him on Twitter? He's very entertaining on Twitter.
He is entertaining. Yeah, he's quite the character, and he's rebounded. I mean, he spent some time in prison, but look, Dykstra, not only was he good with the Mets, he was good with the Phillies too.
Yes. Do you ever see that on X every few months he'll write 900 something days without going to jail?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. But he was a hell of a ball player, regardless.
Yeah. Did you see that 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets? Because it was good, man. That was very, very well done.
Amazing. You know, the Mets right now, they're, and we thought Omar Minaya was bad with them, but let me tell you, they were doing better then. You know, they really need, first off, I think they need better pitching, and they also need I think a guy who could knock it out of the park day in and day out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get into your stuff. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into the film, of course. Don't F with Pablo, which is hysterical, and you could stream it now. But I mean, I think I'd like to go way, way back in your history, because whenever you've gone on, back in the day, Opie and Anthony, more recently, Jim and Sam, or your appearances on Howard Stern, you're always promoting what the new project is, the new book, of which there were many New York Times bestsellers. But going way back, is it the Kurt Cobain Who Killed Kurt Cobain book that really put you on the map? Because that's what I know of, going back to your earliest work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the Cobain, look, the first book I did actually was a Celine Dion book, the first book of Celine Dion.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was approached by a publisher to do it, and it was the first biography of her. And it sold 25,000 copies the first week. And after that, I said, I was a musician before then, a saxophonist, and then all of a sudden I'm selling 25,000 copies of some puffy celeb bio. And I said, wow, I don't need a drummer anymore. I don't need a bass player. They're all coked out. I could just kick back and, sit in a cabin in the woods and ski during the day, write at night. I didn't even have high speed. I had an internet modem, one of those old modems, telephone modems.
Yeah, because we're talking mid-90s.
Yes, yes. And yeah, and then the Cobain I worked hard on for years, murder conspiracy, alleging that maybe his widow Courtney Love was involved in a cover-up. And based on the pathological evidence, the forensic pathological evidence. And yeah, and then I sort of got into movies, and I did a Cobain movie for Paramount.
Which, by the way, that's not connected to the Kurt and Courtney movie, right? Because I
Well, I
remember
worked on that too with Nick Broomfield. Nick's an old friend of mine. My name's in the credits on that film. I went to Seattle and filmed that with Nick. And Nick Broomfield was the director, very famous documentarian who's done many works like the Eileen Vornos. And the funny thing about Nick is he called me a few years ago and asked, because I did a Whitney Houston book, and he said, Ian, I'd like you to work on the Whitney Houston movie. And he basically offered me the same pay that he did 20 years ago for Kurt and Courtney. And I said, Nick, come on, man. But Nick's a good guy. He's actually a very successful filmmaker and old school. He used to edit his movies in his kitchen and just cut his own film. Back in the day. Now, of course, everybody's doing HD and 4K and all that. But yeah, I did work on Kurt and Courtney. Did you see that movie?
Yeah, I did. I wasn't sure if you had anything to do with it because it's similar subject matter, and I didn't know all the stuff until I watched that about that guy El Duce, how
Eldon Hoke. Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know and who want to watch it, I mean, it really is crazy. They record this guy saying that he was hired as a hitman to kill Kurt Cobain, and then during the filming of this documentary, he mysteriously dies getting hit by a train.
That's right. You have a good memory, man. Yeah, in Riverside, California, he got hit by a train. A lot of people died around Courtney when they made these accusations. Even the coroner, Dr. Nicholas Hartshorn, and I was the first guy to ever interview him. He's the guy who labeled Kurt's death an open and shut case of suicide. But then when, I showed up to Seattle and he said, okay, I'll give you an interview. You're Canadian. And he said he might have got it wrong, that he was a bit presumptuous in the definitive answer about how Kurt died. So, and he died too, Nick Hartshorn.
Wow, really?
Yeah, a lot of people, and he was young. But look, the thing in this business, and I remember you from Sirius, and you saw a lot of people come through those doors at Sirius. A lot of famous people back in the day would show up to Sirius and do interviews with Howard or Opie and Anthony. Those days are gone now. Those were really special days because if you make it to those shows, you were taken seriously. Today, if you make it to those shows, nobody hears you. They have no listenership. It's not what it used to be. But the beauty is the podcast, and you don't need to beg for jobs at the mercy of all those old executives who ran Sirius, who ran CBS Radio. And now you could just be a self-entrepreneur, pull up and, get some equipment, a good mic. What mic are you using? It looks like
this is a Rode with a, I'm trying to think of what type of Rode, but it's an actual Rode plugged into the preamp. I love all Rode stuff.
Yeah, Rode stuff.
But yeah, no, it is true. Anyone could do this, which at the same point makes me always think like, why the fuck did I go to college for radio and get a degree in radio at Hofstra University? I mean, I definitely learned a lot, but at the same point, if someone were to tell me that they're getting a degree in radio now, I would say, yeah, just start a podcast or produce. I mean, there's certain things to learn, I guess, but it's a completely different world. And the mainstream media, I don't think people realize really is dying off, and it's going to.
You know, I just did an interview today with one of the biggest papers in the UK, and the reporter told me, you know, they don't even know how if they'll have jobs tomorrow or the next day. It's just, you know, he told me all these tabloids in the UK, they're going to have to go to subscription based content, and will those readers be loyal? And he said he
No.
doubted it. No, of course.
Yeah, I mean, and I shouldn't, out of habit, I use the term mainstream media, but it's really not the mainstream. It's the corporate press. Like I've heard Rogan say this, and he could make the argument the mainstream media is watching and listening to Joe Rogan. That's as mainstream as it gets, or watching like Tucker Carlson on X, like the guy, don't like the guy. His interview with Vladimir Putin, that gets way more views than anything on MSNBC, Fox News, any of that.
They're all dying. I mean, CNN's ratings are horrendous. I mean, Chris Cuomo, who works now at News Nation, I mean, he's getting like 50K a night, 40K. I mean, you're probably getting more on your podcast, you know.
So we have on some clips, yeah.
What do? You record this on Zoom and then you just upload it? Is that how this works?
Well, we edit it. Shout out to Harold, our video editor, who lives in the Philippines. He does an amazing job with all of that. But yeah, I mean, there's much less that you have to do. Chris lives in Kansas, so I mean, he's not here. And I sometimes don't mention the audience. I don't know if they think he just doesn't want to do the show some weeks. He does so many speaking engagements. And truthfully, I mean, this is public knowledge. He gets paid very well to do speaking engagements. So if he gets called like right now to come to Lake Tahoe and do a speech, he's going to go do it. So there's weeks where he can't be here. But yeah, even since 2019, with him being in Kansas, me being here, we've been able to do it. But I should say, man, for those who don't know.
So what do? You take the Zoom feed, you get a copy of the Zoom, you send it to your editor in the Philippines. Is that the way?
Yeah, and I timestamp the stuff that I want to put up there, the clips, the you know, the Instagram reels that we put up. You're not on Instagram, right?
No, I don't do.
Yeah, you're just X.
I just do Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, I missed the whole social media boat. I never got into it. I just found that, hey, you know, I'll just watch everybody else, what they eat for breakfast and who they're banging.
But you were the king of Clubhouse while it lasted.
Yeah, I did Clubhouse, and that app imploded. I mean, that lasted a year or two, and something happened. They changed their software. I don't even understand how to use their software now. It's so complicated. And it's not like before where you set up these rooms, you throw the topic, and you have dozens of people, you know, flock into the room. It's very different now. So Clubhouse to me is dead. I laid off a lot of people. Again, they sort of had it right during the pandemic, but they weren't able to sustain. And the key in this business is sustainability. You know, that's why I can't argue with Stern. Somehow he knew when to get out of terrestrial radio and go to satellites. His timing is always impeccable, and you got to really have cat-like reflexes in this business. Anthony did that too. He started his own studio.
But in Anthony's case, truthfully, I mean, he was fired. So
yeah, he was fired, but he could have tried to get on another station or, you know, hook up. No, he became an entrepreneur. And it's the 10th anniversary of Compound Media this summer, I believe. So it's not easy to sustain that long.
Yeah, and Chris and I have been on Compound. They have like a military show on there we went on. But really? I should say, yes, I should say going back to when you were talking about the height of media, the height of Sirius and all that, like mid-2000s, late or first decade of the 2000s. That's when you came on my radar. Before I even knew who you were, I read the Michael Jackson book, and I remember you were on like Access Hollywood and Entertainment Tonight and TMZ, and then you did Howard Stern. Like, for those who don't know your name, they know your work, but like you dominated and you took it to the next level. And the thing that I think always stood out about you, like people are seeing you on the video now, you know, you got the Hollywood sunglasses on, but at the height, you had your own image that was over the top. If people want to look back, I'll have Harold put up some pictures. But you knew how to like ride the wave and not just be another tabloid reporter.
Yeah, you got to hit while the fire's hot, you know. It's look, I'd done a lot before those days, you know, but it was just paying dues. I remember when I was really young, I used to go on the Joey Reynolds show a lot in New York. I don't know if
I
you
remember him. Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
And you know, I remember his show was an all
WOR, I believe.
yeah, WOR, that's right. And Joey's a great guy. Um, you know, I used to drive from Canada in the snow just to go on his show as a guest to promote my early books. And his producer, Myra Channon, like he was an all night from 12 to 5. So like 4:15 in the morning, I'd be sleeping in the kitchen of his studio. I was passed out. You're on at 4:15 in the morning. And whoa, I can't believe I did that shit. And you know, those days are gone, man. There used to radio, if you were a radio host before, you were sort of a celebrity in New York, like the Art Russ, the Joey Reynolds, the Joe Franklins. And today, look, the beauty of the internet is it's given the chance to everyone. There's no discrimination. If you have a good idea, you don't have to get on your hands and knees and beg for a job. You could just start up and have your independence, build a crowd. The key is to build a crowd, and away you go. And it's just amazing how many people, subscribers are out there for content. So content isn't dead, but the old way of the media, it's a dinosaur, man. It's all online today. Look at Joe Rogan. I mean, nobody could argue with his success. He's way bigger than Stern today.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you can't say content is dead because you just go on your phone and there's so many options. Everyone's in their own
yeah,
bubble of what they're into.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the smartphone culture, I think, is an addiction. I mean, how many hours a day do you spend on your phone, Ian?
Way too many and a lot of it because I have to. I'm one of the weird people, though, I will say, and I feel like you are too, where
Mhm.
I'll go a while without my phone. Chris, when he's not on with us, but like he'll turn off his phone for a few days sometimes.
Wow.
Like when you and I went out to dinner, man, like we didn't look at our phones. We
No,
were having good conversation.
no, absolutely. Just what technology do you use? I'm just curious.
Oh,
What?
on the phone, I have an
Yeah.
iPhone.
Okay. And do you find your whole life is pretty much on that phone?
No, I know what you mean. I think for the average person it is. No. I feel like my business though, right? I feel like doing a podcast and keeping
Sure.
up with booking guests. But I'm also in front of the desktop very long. I mean, I'm in front of the desktop at least 8 hours a day. So
Wow. Wow. So you're working it, man.
yeah.
That that's great. Look, I agree. You know, I'm like that too. Right now, I'm doing this on my desktop and this interview with you. I believe you need balance. And the problem with the phone, first of all, it's so small. And to read on that thing all day, there's so many health issues connected to it that you don't even realize, especially headaches, migraines, all the radiation issues. So I believe you have to do it in moderation and be smart about it. Pardon the pun, smart with the smartphone.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and also just the dopamine rush of everything that you see, whether it's the hottest girls you've ever seen in your life on there, or people liking your stuff, and you feel it messes with our brain a little bit. So, yeah, I
Sure.
think the key to it, and it's something that I learned even when I went to therapy from reading, is just mindfulness, being in the present moment as much as possible. But I really do feel like we both practice that because like I said, hanging out with you, I could tell we're both listening to each other. We're both enjoying the very moment and discussing ideas. But I can tell you, especially, man, I've gone on dates with like younger girls, and I got to take a picture of the food we're eating. I got to tweet out that we're at this restaurant. I like,
No, and then they're
and
taking
yeah,
pictures of themselves all night.
yeah.
Like, you know, there's it's such narcissism. Like they're posing all night. You're on a date with them, and they're just with their phone, and just, all night, like, whoa. And, it's too much for me, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've gone on a couple of dates like that and I've literally left. I
And I
left the
feel like
bar.
you could tell me, I always feel like you're open. Even you being significantly older than me, I feel like His Highness Ian Halperin is on dates with some chicks that are probably less than half your age.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
You
believe
know,
it.
I have dated, women who are in their mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And the only issue I have is when they're doing this all night. I just can't handle it, man. It's too
Yeah, I
much
agree.
for me. Otherwise, no problem at all. I'll go to the gym with them. I'll play tennis with them. The new generation's pretty advanced. They're really smart people. I've had the chance to travel the past couple of years a lot to Europe and speak at conferences, and you meet all these young people who really have their shit together at a young age, and that's impressive.
Yeah.
So long as they're not narcissistic and selfing all night, I'm cool,
Yeah,
and
and I also feel like you are a guy, and I think the same about myself, that you are mentally younger than you are like your physical age, your actual age.
sure.
And I certainly have noticed this. I feel like when you get to your mid 30s, you meet those guys who are of the same age who have like shifted into being an old man already. They,
Yeah,
they're like the
exactly.
mentality of a baby boomer. Or you meet the people that are trying way too hard to fit in with the young people. But people meet me, and I mean, you guys in the audience say I'm wrong. I mean, especially if I shave the beard, and they think I'm like in my mid 20s, and I'm
Yeah,
completely fine
you
with
seem
that.
really young. It's all about the energy that
Yes,
you
and
have.
it's not even about how you look; it's the energy.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the energy and what you offer the world. And, the key to living is curiosity. As long as you maintain that curiosity and the desire to keep learning, you're going to stay young. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and especially not to be one of these people, and we're talking about it where everything in the 2000s was better, everything in the 90s was better, everything today sucks. Even though we're doing some of that, I think also acknowledging like there are very cool things happening right now, and don't isolate yourself from it. Like you
Yeah,
and I talking about Bitcoin, like how amazing is it
sure.
today, the way you can invest versus the way you could invest 10, 20 years ago, where it was like this elite class who knew what to invest in and how to invest. And now like younger people are really doing pretty major things. And I mean, the whole idea of Bitcoin, I'm personally completely sold on. And I think you are as well. And this was not happening this way, that you could generate wealth and like possibly double and triple your wealth, putting it into something that's a digital asset, but it is limited and not this paper crap that we're printing just at the drop of a hat and devaluing the value of. So yeah, there's great things happening now, and I think to just become this like jaded old man is never good.
No, exactly. And the key is to just keep progressing and keep opening new doors. If one door closes in life, and another one's going to open. And I always say there's three types of people in this world: those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who don't know what happened.
Yes.
And you got to make it happen, man. Like, look what you're doing. You used to be at Sirius, and here you are. You're in business for yourself, doing very well. You have a great following, and you're adding great content to the world. I mean, you can't beat that, man. And let's face it, you could work anywhere you want to work. You have a professional broadcast voice. There's no doubt about it. Uh,
Maybe. I don't know. I don't
oh,
know.
you do. You do.
No, I
Well,
know, but I'll agree with that. But I don't know if I could work anywhere I want to. I don't know.
well, you could if you really applied.
Hope you guys are enjoying this interview with His Highness Hollywood, Ian Halperin. A very different type of show. I like to switch it up occasionally, and if you're a longtime listener of the show, you know that. Doesn't mean anything's changing. We're gonna have special ops guys on the show. Chris will be back actually in a couple of weeks. He's got a very busy March with a lot of speaking engagements. But yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this change of pace. I certainly am. And before we continue, Fort Scott Munitions has been with us since the very beginning. They are the best ammo out there. Go out and support them. Support us when you support them. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to the show. But also you're supporting just a great ammo brand based out of Kansas. So Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available at local owners everywhere, local dealers, and you could actually go to their store in Fort Scott, Kansas, which I should have mentioned with Ian Halperin on the show, the legendary Richard Christie from the Howard Stern Show from Fort Scott, Kansas. But you'll get a great deal through us. The best deal when you go to fsm.com or fortscottmunitions.com and you use the exclusive promo code BattleLine for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. fsm.com, promo code BattleLine. Go there now. Let's continue with Ian Halperin.
Look, I started in radio at 14, and I had my own talk radio show. I still have one in French.
Okay, how did that happen? How did you get started at 14?
14 years old, I was a fan of this legendary broadcaster. His name was Ted Teven, and he was a huge deal. He was like the Howard Cosell of Canada. And he used to have this show called Sports Rap every night. And one time he got sick, and he said, Ian, you always call into the show. Could you guest host for me? And that was like the biggest deal, man. That's like, wow.
What did your parents say?
Everybody was cool. Everybody was listening. But, I studied this guy because he knew how to move the callers. The callers made the show, and he was outrageous. I mean, he had a lot of offers, that guy, to go to the States. He never took them. He's just stayed in Canada his whole career. But he was a rock star, man. He used to do TV commercials with some of the Expo players with him. He was a rock star. Where Ted went, people just flocked around him. And so through him, I got into broadcasting and, worked at 18 for the CBC, which is the National Broadcasting Corporation, in television. And then, really focused on talk radio for years. I had a show in Canada, and it's an art, to know how to come up with different subjects every hour, every segment, and then to engage the callers in there. And now it's different. It's all online now, which is even better. I'm looking for a software where people could phone in and be live. Do you know any softwares like that, Ian?
You'd probably need to have like a producer there with you, especially the call screening, because then you could just have people like, think of all the prank calls Howard does where they just like are constantly calling and there's no one call screening and then they have to shut the show down. But there would be a way to do it if you had like a staff there.
Well, I guess you could.
I do agree. That's like working on Wilcow, man. Like he was awesome with the callers. Like,
yeah, the callers used to make the show. Even when you watch all these Fox TV shows and CNN shows today, I'm amazed they don't let people call in like regularly, because the callers would make the show. I guess because there's such strict limits with the with the broadcasting regulatory.
But Captain Jenks, right, who worked on it, who was part of Howard. So I mean, they're scared of that. I think how he would call in and fuck with them all the time. And the most famous one is during the OJ car chase, and he called in and was talking about Howard Stern's penis and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, did you grow up on Stern?
Pretty early, yeah, because I think being here in New York, he was on K-Rock. So, I mean, it was on terrestrial. You didn't need to seek it out. It was just everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, he was a rock star, Stern.
Oh
And
yeah.
still is, I mean, to some extent. The guy, he set the record for you know, earning capacity. He's earning 100 million a year, which is unheard of in this business. So he
Although
said,
Rogan is doing the same. Yeah.
is Rogan doing 100 a year or over a few years?
I'd have to look at it. I mean, he's
Okay.
doing well. We know I feel like Rogan deserves more, quite honestly, at this point.
What do you think Rogan's listenership is a
Oh
day?
man, I'd have to look it up, but it's definitely the most listened. I think him and, like I said, Tucker on X when he's doing this
Yeah.
stuff with Vladimir Putin, like that's the biggest thing happening right now.
Yeah, they're huge.
Yeah, because
Mass.
also Rogan is having on people, and they say that the mainstream media is afraid to have on. But like I saw, RFK Jr. said this, that he was saying that he does better among young people, and he was saying it's because young people listen to podcasts and they'll listen to RFK Jr. on a 2-hour show, and then
Yeah.
people who are my parents' age, all they know of RFK Jr. is the 30-second clip they're going to play on CNN, making him look like an asshole, quite honestly.
Yeah. Whereas Rogan will get into who he really is and give him a voice and let people judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key. You know, so now I'm onto this film, Don't F with Pablo.
Oh my God, which is great.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Did you watch it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Did you use the subtitles? I hope you used the
Yeah, I
sub.
did. You told me to put the subtitles on because for the audience, half of this is in Spanish, half is in English, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's if you guys want to laugh and just we always talk about in this show how everything has become so political, and everything has become so controversial, and yeah, people just want entertainment. That's what this is.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I wrote it during the pandemic. I thought the world was going to the crapper, and that I just wanted to do comedy again and make the people laugh. Or it's very quirky, the film, and you know, I just wanted to say, what the fuck is this? So we filmed it in Medellin, Colombia. It's about Pablo Escobar's illegitimate Jewish son, Pablito, who
Played by
trekked,
you.
yeah, played by me, who treks to Medellin to trace his ancestral roots and gets into all kinds of wild schemes there. But you know, it does have a good ending, and you get to see the beauty of Colombia in it. It's, I mean, you have to admit, it's a different culture there. It doesn't look like America, right?
Oh yeah. How much of this film was when you say you wrote the film? How
Yeah.
much of this is completely improvisational? Because
Ah,
I know you is
yeah,
well, I could tell people the story when we went out to dinner, the
sure.
conversation you had with the people there. But like you are great at improv, and I'm laughing my ass off just watching this, partially
Sure.
because I know you and I know your humor. And I'm like, Ian didn't write this down. He's just
Yeah.
fucking with the people there, and he really wants to see how far can I take this I'm Pablo Escobar's son thing when I'm like blatantly a white guy speaking not the best Spanish, and all I have is this
Yeah,
mustache
Spanglish,
that I taped on my face.
of course. Um, I'd say the premise was all scripted, and I let the actors do some improvisation as we went. That's obvious. But you know, we did, as you see, we had different themes, and we did have an ending that I wrote. So I'd say it was about 70% scripted and
Okay.
30% improv.
But that's a
Well,
lot. 30% improv is
yeah,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah. Well, a lot of the improv was when I would go out in the streets and interact with the people and just provoke reaction out of them. Um, but yeah, it was a great place to film in. I mean, the sceneries are just amazing there. We did have protection the whole time. Whitney Houston's former bodyguard, literally her former bodyguard. He's a good buddy of mine. He's in the movie, by the way. He plays my bodyguard in the movie. So, and the camera crew I used, I was smart because in all my films, I've always used the same camera crew for like 20 years. But in this one, I hired an award-winning Colombian camera crew who looked like they were from the hood. So if anybody tried to fuck with us, we had protection because these guys spoke the language and they were tough guys. So we
You know what
needed,
scene I love that you
yeah,
meet your father Pablo Escobar, and he's a dealer at a casino. But the great thing about it is like it's a kid who's blatantly younger than you, and you're like, Papa.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's part of the comedy. That's part of the comedy. It's like my mother too. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
younger than me, my mother. And that's, again, it's a quirky film, but you get to appreciate the beauty of Colombia by watching this and learning a bit about the cartel and the nuances of the people of Colombia and the music. I mean, we had a really good soundtrack that we licensed for this by all well-known Colombian musicians, reggaeton, salsa, vallenata, ranchero. And I'll tell you, Ian, before we filmed, I really went undercover in Colombia and learned the culture. A lot of the jokes, unless you're Spanish, you might not even get because they're really centered on that culture. It's called Paisa. You know, it's like indigenous Colombians in Medellin. And you really, the Colombians love this movie. They laugh their asses off because they get the jokes. But some of the jokes, unless you've been to Colombia or know that culture, they'll just whiz by people.
Yeah, I think I picked up on a lot of it, but yeah, I get what you mean with that, especially with like the artists that they're talking about and all
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's very well done. People have to check it out. And it's fun. It's a fun movie, man. So I wanted to tell people the story of Us Out. So
Sure.
I've been a fan for the audience, like
Just
there's
before you
people.
get into that, let me just
Yeah.
say where it's available. The film
Yes.
is available on TGI123.com. TGI123.com. It's called Don't F with Pablo. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead,
and
Ian.
no, and I got it, and it's, by the way, for people who are like, oh, it's not on Netflix. Is it going to be a pain? Like, it's very easy, man. You just put your info on there, and bam, it's up on there. There's not, and it's reasonably priced. So check it out, guys. Is it going to eventually be on other platforms or?
So here's the deal. The platforms, a lot of my movies are on Amazon Prime. When Netflix first started, their first site ever, one of my movies was on there. There were 4 movies, and one of my movies, His Highness Hollywood, was on Netflix.
Highness Hollywood
And
classic.
they all wanted to do business with me, but Amazon wants to put out the film for like $20.99 to start. And I said, look, guys, you know, and I don't want people to watch this movie and feel they have to sign up for Amazon Prime or they have to sign up for Paramount because they don't sell individually. You have to subscribe to their platform. So what I said is I'll start my own platform, TGI123.com, and do one-offs. You could just buy the film one time, no obligations for anything in the future. And instead of pricing it like Amazon $20.99, I price it at $8.99 to view, $5.99 for rentals, which is ridiculously low.
Yeah.
And that's it, and make it really easy. So again, folks, it's available TGI123.com. It's called Don't F with Pablo.
And you own it, right? You're not even renting it.
You own the film for
I'm
eight.
saying, yeah, I'm saying you get to watch it anytime. Like I could watch it a year from now if I want
Yeah,
to, right?
you own it in perpetuity, or you could rent it for 3 days for $5.99.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it's great. Check it out, guys. So what I was gonna say is I've been a fan of Ian Halperin's work truly for it's like about 15 years or more because it was the Michael Jackson book, and then I was a fan of the book, but then when I saw your appearances on O&A, your appearances on Stern, I was like, this guy's just a character, and then we kind of became acquainted online and we talked to each other. But when I saw you in New York City, I'm like, we have to finally meet up because we've been familiar with each other. So. I was gonna go to Koreatown with you, and then you said, you know what? Let's go to this hibachi place that's near my hotel. It was really good. One of the other actors in the film is in it. What's his name again?
Tom Mays. Tom Mays,
Yes.
really nice guy.
So Tom was with us, and it was a good place. However, it was a complete ghost town. There was absolutely no one there, and we had a waitress who barely spoke English. And this is Ian being Ian. You go, you were like, how's business going here? And she's kind of giving you an answer. She's having trouble even, speaking the language with you. And you go, I want to buy this place. And she says that the owner is not here right now. And as she's saying it, you kind of interrupt her. You're like, I want to make this a male strip club, but just Korean.
Yeah. I'm always in character, just having fun. I mean, it was sad because that place was actually good and they had no patrons in there. It was empty.
Yeah.
And I just have no idea how places like that can survive in New York, man. Those rents are expensive, and it wasn't exactly a small restaurant for New York
Yeah.
standard. So and the build out was crazy. They had a Batchies at all the tables, and they had a bar. I mean, so they're either washing money or somebody's got really deep pockets and doesn't give a fuck about losing money.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the impression I got. I want to get into, for those
Yeah.
who may be clicking on this, who yeah do remember the days of probably what 2006 to 2012 ish, of all these radio appearances. You got into some legendary fights with these guys, but they were always fun. And I feel
Yeah.
like, you and I were speaking about this the other night, how you said it's hard to really keep up with professional comedians who do this for a living, but I felt like you always had these comebacks that they didn't even know what to respond. I'll always remember, like, when you were on with Anthony, and he's cursing you out and he's giving you shit, and you go, Anthony, when is the last time someone called you sexy? And he didn't even know. He was like, what? So I always felt like you found a way to keep up with these guys and keep them on their toes. And if you go on YouTube and you just look up Ian Halper and Opie and Anthony, you're gonna see at least 20 or so
Okay.
appearances. And this is when they could get anyone on that show, but like you were so much fun to listen to, and you kept people glued to their radio.
You know, with Anthony in later years, I realized the guy is a comedic genius because he called me to be on his new network, Compound Media, like 2 weeks after he opened, and I thought it was a joke. I said, "Dude, I thought you hated my guts. We just sparred for like 10, 12 years." He said, "No, it was all an act." He said, "I love you." Anyhow, I went on and I learned a lot about him. The guy comes into the studio and just riffs an opening monologue, man. Better than Fallon, better than Kimmel, better than any of these guys. Like comedic genius. I give him props for that. And honestly, he's one of the only people that really scares me as an interviewer because that guy can just cut through you like a knife, man, in a second. He's that talented. Opie was a bit of a lightweight, in my opinion. He wasn't, by radio standard, somebody cutting edge or had anything. I mean, he's the guy who I think is lucky to have gotten that far. Whereas you look at guys like Stern, even Joey Reynolds, these guys are legends who are real radio people per se. They've studied the business. You know, do you remember Art Bell?
I think that's before my time. I know the
Yeah,
name. I know the name.
very. I mean, these guys are all legends in radio and really know their craft. Even Mancow out of Chicago. I mean, Mancow, I've been to studios several times, and the thing that freaked me out about Mancow the most is he's actually mixing the show as he's talking. He's behind the board. I've never seen that before. Like really, the commercials, everything, and the music. Mancow's doing it all. That guy is a genius, radio genius. So those shows that you allude to with Opie and Anthony, look, I just walked in there blind, man. I had no idea what really was going on. There was a whole cast of characters from Troy Kwan to Sam Roberts, all these people, Eric Nagel. Do you remember Eric?
Yes, yeah.
All these people were floating around that studio. They actually had a big staff. The old
And you mentioned the other night, Steve Carlisi, who we
Yes,
lost.
Steve was great. A really nice guy. I was shocked when he was found dead in I think it was like 211 or something, or 210. I don't remember around that time. Steve was a young guy. I think it was like 36 years old, very talented producer, and really was sort of the backbone of that show. Now, Travis is a good friend of mine, Travis Teft, who took over from Steve. So these guys last, I mean, he's very talented. These guys lasted the test of time. but going back to the show the other day with Jim and Sam, it's a bit different. These guys came in to replace legends. Opie and Anthony are living legends in New York, and it's very tough to step into to fill big shoes like that. It's almost impossible. It's like I pity the guy who I don't even know if Sirius has a plan for who's going to replace Stern, but
Yeah.
whoever goes into that seat, they really are going to have a tough time. If you remember, it was David Lee Roth once.
Yes, I was going to mention this. Yes, yes.
And he couldn't do it. He lasted 3 months. You just can't fill these shoes so quickly. Like, love or hate Rush Limbaugh, nobody's replaced him since.
Dan Bongino has done very well, I know, but yeah, I mean, Rush is a name everybody knows.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a different marketplace today. The social media, the influencers are the stars today. And those guys in radio's dinosaur today. Like when you go to Sirius, it's dead. It used to be so vibrant.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You would go in there and you'd see, I mean, I have pictures with so many people over the years, man. I have a picture with Caitlyn Jenner. I have a picture with Mike Piazza.
Wow.
Anyone you could think. I bored out the Kardashians,
Yeah. Was Piazza a nice guy?
Very nice guy. Very cool guy. And I'd love to get him on the show. Our friend Rudy Reyes did that reality show with him. I've been trying to get Piazza on, man. I know he's a big supporter of the military, which works in well with what we do.
Yeah, I thought Piazza, for years was the face of New York,
Oh, yeah.
Another guy, who was very interesting back in the day and doing a lot of those shows was what's his face? My
Who are
memory
you thinking of?
My memory escapes me now. He was always on Sirius doing the shows.
Bubba the Love Sponge, or
well, Bubba, actually, that's one name I was thinking of was Bubba. And then what's his name? The guy at the UFC was always on there, Dana White. He was
yeah.
best. And I think Sirius made the UFC, to be honest with you, because Dana White was always doing the shows. And I think he used Sirius to some extent. I don't know if he'd be successful today using Sirius, because I don't believe Sirius is as big as it used to be.
I think I know who you're thinking of if you're mentioning the UFC. Are you thinking of Scott Farrell?
Oh yeah, he was on all the time. Yeah,
super cool guy, man. Well, he had a show. He was on Howard's
that's right
channels. Shake it up.
Did you meet him?
Yes. Oh, super nice guy, man. Really nice guy.
But there's not many people left in that building anymore. Very few. When I was
there's less you need now. I mean, so many people could work remote. People, especially, I got into radio in 2006, so that was before voice tracking, and that was before people had all this equipment in their house. So if you wanted to DJ a 3-hour rock show or pop show, whatever, you were there in the studio. Now you could do it from your house, and you don't have to do it in real time. You could just record, that was the Backstreet Boys, and that was NSYNC, and that was Britney Spears. And then you just cut it up, you put it with the music, and you probably spent 10 minutes recording a 3-hour show.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is, but that's the beauty of this. You don't have to show up every day and kiss ass. You could just do it yourself and find a crowd, build a crowd, and away you go. And they say nobody ever got rich selling razors. You get rich selling blades. Well, what are your blades? Is it products? Is it books? Is it videos? You have T-shirts. That's when it becomes interesting, is all the merch.
Yeah, what I just hope is that there is still, and I think there always will be, a demand for this type of thing, because with AI now, I mean, you're a guy who's released so many books, and I think what we're doing right now, I don't think could be replaced with AI. But what can be is, if you wanted to record your books as audiobooks, why do we need Ian Halperin to sit in a studio for 12 hours, which is probably what it takes, as opposed to we could just, you have so many samples of your voice online. You could have what I would never know is AI Ian Halperin reading the Michael Jackson book.
And nobody would know the difference.
No one would know.
But No, the beauty about what you're doing is you're doing something very niche, and there's a demand for this. And you and your partner, Chris, the AI could never replace you guys. It's impossible. And what you've built up in just a few years is amazing. And I think the best is yet to come, Ian, because I'm
Yeah.
a big fan.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. You know what I wanted to get into and make sure that we talk about was when we were out to dinner. Like I said, I know you as, and I know it's like always jokingly, His Highness Hollywood Ian Halperin. And you were the guy who went on Howard Stern, who went on Opie and Anthony, and you would have the scoops on Kim Kardashian, on Tiger Woods, no matter what it was. And it was kind of shocking to me that when I was out with you, somehow me, who doesn't even follow this stuff, is more up on what's going on in celebrity gossip than you are. You were the guy. So what
Yeah,
happened? You just checked out from it completely?
I checked out completely, man. It was just, after covering Jackson, Whitney Houston, Kardashians, Kurt Cobain, the Beatles, Princess Diana, there's no way I'm going to sit down and write a book about Drake, man. Or Justin Bieber or Swift or any of these people. I mean, the day of the Hollywood elite, Hollywood glamour to me is long over, and I'm completely disinterested now. I respect what some of them are doing. For me, I'm more interested in the Latino culture now,
But
because
it's
those
because you're
people,
there, right? You're in
well,
Colombia. So
I'm in Colombia a lot, but those people are veritable superstars. If you look what Shakira and Carol G have done, I mean, they're in the Guinness Book of World Records for most Spotify hits, and they're setting records day in and day out. And they remind me of what Hollywood used to be. They're stars who are just in a different stratosphere. So I'm more interested in that star culture than Hollywood. Hollywood became very boring. I mean, first off, very few films are shot in Hollywood anymore. They're all shot in New Mexico or Vancouver. It's just dead, man. It used to be something else. I used to go I lived in LA. I used to go to Hollywood parties. You'd meet different people doing different, really cool things. The industry has just changed so significantly that it became boring. And then I morphed into this Latino culture, and I discovered how people are obsessed with Shakira. Shakira, to most English people, they think she's a has-been. They haven't heard from her in years. The
yeah,
fact,
I feel like we know two hits for the most part.
yeah,
My Hips Don't Lie, and then the one with Wyclef. That's the only
she
ones I
had
can name.
in 223, she must have had 7 or 8 number ones, all in Spanish. I know all of the songs and spectacular songs. Carol G. Have you heard of Carol G?
I only because of Don't F with Pablo.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Carol
She's
G.
mentioned a lot.
She's bigger than the Stones today. She's bigger than you too. She sold out Miami Hard Rock Stadium 2 nights in a row. She had a sold out North American stadium tour. Now is doing Latin America. In fact, last week her private plane, was called back to Van Nuys Airport in California. It was on fire. She almost died, man. And then she did a concert in Guatemala the next night. She made it to the concert. She didn't want to let down her fans. So these people to me are the new stars of the world. And this Hollywood English culture, for me, it needs a major rejuvenation. So many of them have died. Who's going to replace Michael Jackson? Who's going to replace Whitney Houston,
I mean,
Aretha Franklin?
whether I'm a fan or not, I feel like Taylor Swift, in terms of sales and stadium tours, has surpassed Michael Jackson, as crazy as that is.
She has, but still, the stigma of Swift versus Jackson, you can't compare. Everybody was watching every move, every breath Michael Jackson took.
You don't think it's the same with Taylor Swift?
It is, but it's not the same class. Even though Michael was addicted to drugs and everything, he was still a veritable Hollywood star. He was in a world of his own, a league of his own. Taylor Swift, look, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of the music. I just don't get it. I don't think she's anywhere
Oh,
musically
I
talented.
agree. I'm a huge MJ fan. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree, but yeah.
She's not in. Michael Jackson had big ears. He could tell the orchestra whenever they made a mistake. You know, people even like Barry White, if the bass player would make a mistake, he'd hear it. These people were real musicians. Jackson, Whitney Houston, Barry White. Taylor Swift is a brand, and it's not gourmet food. It's like McDonald's. Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston are gourmet food.
Yeah. So is a Carol G or Shakira book the future for you?
No,
That
no,
won't
but
be in the
movies,
works.
yes,
Okay.
I'll put them in the movies, and you know, the books. It would take a lot for me to do a celebrity book. Now, I also did Schwarzenegger, if you remember. I
Yes.
have zero interest
You're
in.
burnt out. You're burnt out of it.
Yeah, it's over. You know, it would have to be something very special. You
It's
know,
also a different time in that I feel like you go to newsstands now, or which there few of them are, but I'm talking about you go to the bookstores at the airports, and it's unfortunate in my opinion because it's so inundated the culture, but everything is politics way more than celebrity,
it's
and I
true.
kind of miss the days when it was
Yeah.
celebrity. I don't give a fuck about reading a book about Trump indictments and January 6th. I mean, you want to talk about burnt out, man. I can't believe how many books have been made about
I
this.
know. They're the new celebrities, the politicians. You know, everybody from Romney to Trump to Biden to Ted Cruz, all these people, they replaced the musicians and actors as the new superstars and the darlings of the media. And that's
I don't like it. Do you?
no, because first of all, the ratings are down. People are tired of it. And we still politics shouldn't be entertainment. We need people to govern properly in the best interest of the people of the country. We don't need this to be the WWE.
Yeah. Well, although I will say you are going to sound a little bit hypocritical here because speaking of entertainment and politics, I do have to mention you have challenged President Trump to a tennis match.
I did. I really did. I have a good friend of mine, a billionaire in New York, one of the biggest real estate developers. He said he'd put up the money, and Trump needs apparently he doesn't have the money to bail himself out to appeal properly. So I said to his people, look, we'll put it up if he beats me in a tennis match. And we're just on a wait and see if this match will ever happen. Do you think
I
he'll beat me?
I don't think it's gonna happen. But why? Let's be real here. Why do you want this tennis match to happen? Is it just getting your name out there, getting Don't F with
No,
Pablo out
I
there?
really want to play him because he plays tennis and I play tennis. And I really want to see what he's got on the courts.
I would love to see it. I don't have the money to chip in millions of dollars, but I'll pay like $20 to watch it on demand.
On streaming, yeah.
Yeah, on TGI 123. I'd love to see it. So you know what? Actually, last thing I want to get into, because this has been great, man. It's cool to
Thank
just
you.
sit down and shoot the shit with you. I know you're a proud Canadian who spent a lot of time in America. You've rubbed shoulders with everyone, honestly, from celebrities to all this other stuff that we've mentioned, radio hosts, media figures. But as you know, I do this show with Chris Peranto, one of the Benghazi attack survivors.
Yeah.
Many would say military hero. I'm wondering, man. I mean, we've had Canadian military on the show. We've had special ops vets like Jeff DePazzi. We've had record-breaking snipers like Rob Furlong. Any history at all with American military, Canadian military, any story at all that connects you to that world?
Well, yeah, because I worked with the in Israel. I did a film a few years ago about contemporary anti-Semitism. I directed it called "Wish You Weren't Here," and I interviewed a lot of the military there. And there was one great story by one of the former leaders of Shin Bet of Israel, and he told me he met with Pablo Escobar 3 weeks before Escobar died, and he sold him 2 submarines. And Escobar shook hands with him, and they agreed on $150,000 US. The next day, one of Escobar's guys showed up with a suitcase of 150 grand in cash to pay for the submarines. 3 weeks later, Escobar was killed. And I asked the guy in Shin Bet, did you ever deliver the submarines? He said, no, because Escobar was killed. And then I asked him, whatever happened to the 150 grand? And he went, shh.
I love it. That's a great story.
It's a true story.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, where do you think the future is headed for, military operations? I mean, we're seeing so many things right now, and I know you stay up on this way more than the Hollywood stuff. I mean, what
Yeah.
we have going on Israel, Palestine, Russia, and
Yeah.
Ukraine. I mean, this is not in terms of all that. I know people will say, "Oh, this is the best time in America or in the world in terms of people thriving and all that." We've had Brad Thor on and said, but I think in terms of world conflict, we're headed into very dangerous territory.
Yeah, that's why I think the safest place, who would have thought, is South America, because nobody's going to attack them. I mean, they don't even know where these people are. It feels, yeah, you don't want to get killed by the locals there. But as far as, nuclear and stuff like that, I don't think it's a big threat in South America. But over here it is, unfortunately. And, you have Russia, Ukraine, you have Gaza, the situation there between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Look, the day of the October 7th attacks, I was speaking as a keynote speaker in Istanbul, a Muslim city in a Muslim country, Turkey. And they embraced me. I'm Jewish. My father's a Holocaust survivor. They were great. A Muslim family took me out the night before. 30 of them showed up, and they were just so nice and so curious about my father's history.
Yeah,
And
I got to be honest. I had no idea your dad was a Holocaust
yeah,
survivor.
my dad's a Holocaust survivor. So they were very respectful. Okay. And then October 7th happens, and I had given my speech, and I'm in Istanbul. And then I'm going to the airport. I can't get a taxi. The taxi said, and I have photos of this, no Jews allowed, no Israelis allowed in the taxis. So how the fuck am I getting out of Turkey now, And of course I got out, but it's scary. But I always say it always takes two to tango. And there's two sides and the truth. It's like in marriage. The divorce rate's almost 60%. And it's always he said, she said, and the truth is somewhere lost in the middle of all this. So I'll leave you with this, the great Ian Scotto, who I'm a big fan of.
I'm mutual, man, mutual.
Why in this land of plenty does the joy of peace escape many?
Yeah. Well said, man. And and also you talking about South America, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at El Salvador, a country that's embracing Bitcoin right
Yeah.
now. This is pretty remarkable to see, and I wish our country was ahead. I mean, I wanted to get into this with Chris at some point, but I do believe at some point, just like you don't really use paper money now, you use credit cards or anything, the Bitcoin is going to replace the reserve currency, I think, because you can't have a currency that's just printed out of thin air and
That's
and is
right.
backed up by absolutely nothing. People want a finite resource, and I think it's taking a while for people to comprehend this. Like people looked at it as like digital monopoly money, I think, up until recently. But now
Sure.
when you have these ETFs like BlackRock buying up everything, you know that this is real. You know that this is no longer my pet rock, as Warren Buffett said. And yeah, so I think there are South American countries like El Salvador that
Oh
are
yeah, and
thinking ahead
Europe.
more than us.
It's all over Europe. I wrote a book about crypto about a year and a half ago, and I went to the Republic of Georgia, was one of the countries. They said everything's crypto. Everybody takes crypto in the Republic of Georgia. So in the book, I literally order a prostitute to my hotel, and I tell her I could only pay her in Bitcoin. And guess what? She took it. I literally transferred from my crypto wallet to hers. Now, I didn't go the whole 9 yards with her. I just took a massage. No happy ending.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
Really,
no,
Ian?
no, that is true. I just wanted to see for my research in my book if everybody took crypto in the Have you been to the Republic of Georgia?
No, I haven't. But this
Beautiful
is the
place.
greatest story.
Yeah, beautiful place. And yeah, so you're right. All those naysayers out there, those were the same people who said debit cards would never come into play. And nothing's going to stop digital currency. That's a fact. In Europe, everybody takes it.
Yeah. That is an amazing story to leave us with. So I'm going to end it on that.
You're the best, Ian.
You too, man. So at Ian Undercover on X, once again, TGI123.com. Check out Don't F with Pablo, available now. Check out all of Ian's books, which you could still find on Amazon. Yeah, any other social media other than Ian Undercover on X?
That's it. That's it.
Dude, I think we may make some headlines with your comments about Opie. I'm not going to lie. I expect Opie to respond.
I wish Opie the best. I wish everybody the best. And, Opie, who would have thought his next job's probably washing dishes at that Korean restaurant that we ate at?
Wow.
But why not?
I mean, I've learned from the best, and I'm gonna clip that. That's the headline right there. Ian Halperin says that Opie was the weak link on the show. You're gonna ruffle some feathers, but that's what you do.
He was. Peace, Ian. You're the best, man. I'm a big fan. Keep up
you
the
too,
good
man.
work.
This was great, and I'm glad we finally did this.
Thank you, bro.
That's all for this episode of Battle Line Podcast. But we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.